Climate Emergency Coalition of Malaysia.
Got it.
And it's a coalition of 24 civil society organizations, community-based organizations, and individuals.
At least in all the associations.
Yep. So just let me start the YouTube live streaming first. Okay, so we're streaming live on YouTube, and we can start recording as well in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to UndIklim. Today we have a candidate for P106. Is that correct? P106, Damansara. Our candidate is from Barisan Nasional. Is that correct? And
yes.
His name is Mr. Tan Tuan.
Gim Tuan.
Gim Tuan. Tan Gim Tuan. Okay.
GT.
So
Only GT.
welcome to the show, GT. So as you know, we've explained the objective of these interviews is to bring voters closer to their candidates, and so that the candidates can explain their stand on the 7 questions that we have put forward. So if we're ready, we'll start with question number 1.
Yep,
so,
okay.
Yeah. So question number 1 asks if you will push for the Climate Change Act to be brought forward and tabled in Parliament by 2023, which is next year, by Climate Action Week.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for giving me this opportunity. Saya ingin ucapkan terima kasih kepada Gabungan Darurat Iklim Malaysia in partnership with Gabungan Bertindak Malaysia kerana memberi peluang kepada saya, calon Barisan Nasional P106 Damansara, untuk menyiarkan pendapat dan pandangan saya berkenaan dengan climate change yang merupakan satu which is a very, very serious issue facing all of us, not only here in Malaysia, but throughout the world. So, yeah, question 1, Mr. Kennedy, you said that whether I'll push or table and vote in favor of the urgent enactment of the Malaysian Climate Emergency Act. Now, I must say this, not many Malaysians are aware of this act. Now, one thing that I see happening in Malaysia today, or especially in Damansara, is that a lot of things which affect the environment, there is no strong campaign to, I wouldn't say educate the public, but to inform the public as to what's happening. All right. Climate change to a lot of people, to lay people, is something very new. Okay. And I think the campaign to promote the awareness of the issues together with the implications, I think it's very, very low. So to me, for us to actually push for Malaysian Climate Emergency Act to be tabled and voted next year, I think from now until then, I suggest that we have a strong campaign to create awareness among the residents of Damansara, because, you know, people who live in an urban setting like Damansara, all right, sometimes climate change may not be their priority, which is wrong. It should be, but it's because the exposure to the issues surrounding climate change is not really promoted. And that's why I think we have to start that kind of campaign. And if I'm elected, I'll be the first MP, the first one who will come out and share this with the constituents of Damansara.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. We move to question number 2. Same thing, will you push for and table and vote in favor of the just transition mechanism of the fossil fuel economy towards a low carbon society? So basically what it is we're now a fossil fuel economy. We're depending on petroleum, and we want to move to renewables. But in the process of moving to renewables, the transition from the fossil fuel to renewables has to be just and equitable. So if we're going for hydropower, which is supposed to be a green power, then we must look that the orang asli, the indigenous people, the wildlife in the forests are not sacrificed. So that's an unfair way to move. So this is what just transition is. So what's your stand on that?
I think, of course, I will do that. I will push for it. Mind you, our manifesto for Barisan Nasional this time, there are 99 points. And point number 93 and 84, if you look at it, remove approved permits for electric vehicles to increase access to affordable, eco-friendly vehicles. That's point 93. And 94 is to ensure that 100% of public transport services and official government vehicles are environmentally friendly by 2030. So you see, all these are already put in place in Barisan Nasional's manifesto. Now, if you talk about low carbon society, every time when it comes to a layperson's mind, it's about vehicles, transport, cars, motorcycles, lorries, buses, etc. So, in PJ, we have a very, very serious traffic problem. Today, it is all because of poor town planning. In 2006, these issues were all brought up. In fact, low carbon society, a fossil fuel economy, etc. And in 2006, when PJ was declared a city, I remember the time the Menteri Besar was K. Toyo. And there is this group, including myself in PJ Damansara at the time, we were lobbying for greater and stronger public participation in development approval process. Mind you, those days, 2006 and before that, there are no higher than 7-story buildings in Petaling Jaya. But after that, after 2008 and today, I think PJ has gone, Damansara has gone for the worst. So that is simply because when they implemented and introduced public participation, LA21, bottoms-up approach, this so-called practice has been totally and blatantly disregarded for the past 10 years. And that's why you see all kinds of rampant, random development taking place. All right. So what you have now, what we are experiencing now is traffic jams, which means more cars. When the cars stop, right? I think that's where they emit all these kind of poisonous gases. That's number one. And number two, all right, you see flash floods occurring in SS3, SS1, SS2, and even in Taman Aman. That's because rainfall or water has got nowhere to flow. Everywhere is already concrete, and it's flash flood. We call it banjir kilat. It comes and goes. Very dangerous, The force of it coming in, the action and reactionary forces can actually destroy property and also cause the loss of lives. So this is something which I am pushing now, all right, in Damansara, where we need greater public participation in development approval processes. Last year or 2 years ago, there are some high-rise development on very, very small plots of land, totally wrong, but they were given approval without proper public consultation and approval. I've been to those meetings. You know what, Mr. Kennedy? They don't keep minutes. I'm just wondering what is the, people preach about good governance, transparency and all that, but when you go for meetings as important as that, they don't even have minutes for us to what you call it, to refer to, and for us to know and convince whether the issues, the problems that residents bring up as far as certain development is concerned has been addressed properly or not. For example, traffic, social, business concerns and all that. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done. I think for this climate change and environment, we just have to be very, very serious about it. So if I get elected as an MP, first thing I'll do is I'll push forward for this kind of campaign. You see, I'm very happy. I've been talking about this for the past 10 years. All right. And to see that all the candidates in Damansara today, they talk about sustainable development. Of course, I don't think they are copying me. If they copy me, then I've got to charge them those rights, royalty rights. But anyways, whatever it is, at least, all right, not only the voters, the constituents, at least the candidates, aspiring candidates, are also taking these issues very, very seriously.
Excellent. So this brings us to our next question, because you mentioned about note-taking and consultation. So will you push for and table and vote in favor of the Freedom of Information Act so that the public can access information related to the environment and climate and all administrative and governance matters not directly related to national security? So this one is a major challenge, the public's access to freedom of information.
I will, in fact. To me, the people who are elected to office must volunteer information. Sometimes when they ask us to go for public participation and consultation, I ask where are all the information that we need to have for us to participate effectively.
And
now, if I don't
meaningfully.
have and sometimes it's only the authorities who have this kind of information. For example, a simple development project. I'm sure the developer or the contractor would have given them all kinds of information and all that. That is what we need if you want public to participate. And sometimes
SIAs and EIAs.
correct. Sometimes when you ask for those documents, they don't provide. Correct. Then we have to invoke FOI. FOI has to be invoked when the other party is not so friendly. I don't want to use the word hostile. Correct. Not when they don't want to offer information, then we have to use this. But I find it very, very sad, especially those who are elected to office has been championing about freedom of information and transparency. They don't seem to practice what they preach.
Yes, this is a major challenge for citizens.
You see, when I met some of the PJ residents, you know, this highway, toll highway that cuts across Damansara called PJ D-Link.
Yeah.
I told them, look, if I'm appointed as elected as the MP for Damansara, the first thing I will do in 100 days, yeah, if I'm elected, is to organize an MP-sponsored public referendum, all right, for people to say yes or no to this highway. But for them to say yes or no, effectively, I will get the contractors, the concessionaire, to give all the information, all right, the facts and figures, all right, how they're going to finance it, how this highway is going to benefit Damansara PJ residents. Now, once you get that information, make it public, let people participate, we can come to a very, very good decision.
Absolutely.
All for freedom of information, transparency, and those in office must make the effort to make this kind of information available.
This then brings us to the question of pushing for and tabling and voting in favor of the Citizens' Freedom to Criticize and Questions Governance Act on all matters of government, especially related to the protection of the environment, indigenous peoples' rights, biodiversity and wildlife rights, climate and social justice, that will allow the citizens of Malaysia the liberty from prosecution and persecution in defending their rights to the rule of law, clean air and water, ecosystem and human rights protection, and all the other fundamental liberties. So we have the Whistleblower Protection Act, we have the Official Secrets Act, and then we have, people like us who are environmentalists, we are civil society organizations, we're non-partisan, who in the past few years have been harassed, have been charged in court, journalists have been bullied, because we are talking about the issues that are important to us. So how can that be a crime, How can that be reason for government to bully ordinary citizens? Yeah. So what is your take on that?
I think society has progressed towards the direction where issues that are being brought up in this question 4, all right, citizens' freedom to criticize, to question, we are moving towards a more liberal approach. And I'm happy that it's going that way. And it is not only if I'm not on the same team, I can criticize, even if I'm on the same team, all right, the same bench, correct, the same side of the divide of the parliament. It's good to give constructive criticism, because the role of the MP is to represent the voice of the people and tell, all right, parliament, all right, parliament is a place where 222 MPs from all over the place congregate together and tell them, look, this is what I think representing the people from my so-called constituency, urban Damansara. All right, that's why I took the so-called I'm contesting in Damansara, because I want Barisan Nasional to have a voice, an urban voice in parliament. All right, so far I think a lot of urban areas, not Barisan Nasional. So this time now, if you have this kind of voice in Barisan Nasional, it will so-called change people's perception of Barisan Nasional, because a lot of people think that we are only for economy, we don't care about environment and all that.
Moving away from race, religion, and economy.
That's right. That's right. We change people's perception, misperception.
Okay, that's very good. We'll come back to that in a bit.
All right. So moving direction, you will end up with something good. You see, like our manifesto, item number 66, establish a cabinet committee for human dignity in Sun to resolve all cases of children born out of wedlock and undocumented children, in addition to upholding their right to education. See, now it is realized.
That's going to please a lot of people.
Yes. And also 67, amend the federal constitution and related laws to uphold citizenship rights for children born to Malaysian women abroad. See, again, now you see, as long as society, politicians from both divide, we work together, set a goal, move towards the direction, I think no problem, we can achieve it.
That's a very interesting point that you brought up about politicians working together, because all candidates, all parties contesting in the general election have talked about doing something for Malaysia. You know, whatever they do, their manifesto, their promises, their targets are all about doing things for Malaysians. But over the last 65 years, except for the rare occasions like UndIklim-P106, for example, and the Sexual Harassment Act, which was passed recently, very rarely do they come together for the good of the nation. You know, it's all very partisan focused. And I think it would be excellent, because whether you are in government or whether you're in opposition, you are still being paid a salary as an MP to continually serve your nation and to also serve your constituents. And so you must do the best by them and not think, oh, just because I'm the opposition, you know, I don't have a job to do. You actually have a very important job to do to keep whoever is in office honest and true to serving the nation. So this is a very interesting point that you brought up, which brings us to question number 5. Question number 5 is a state.
I just want to add something more, Mr. Kennedy. You see, like if let's say I'm the MP for Damansara, and the federal government of the day is not from my party, all right? So it is also my duty to make sure that whatever government policies that they have implemented, if it's good for the people of Damansara, I must bring it down and present it to them, whether it's policies with regards to good governance, economy, or even social protection. Correct. It is not my so-called political duty to the party where, okay, if the federal government, just because they are from a different party, they are doing something good, I will conceal it, I will confuse the people. All my whole objective is to make the federal government look bad, correct or not, and then win in the next election again. That should not be the way, because if you do that, you are wasting 5 years of valuable time, you know, correct? There are
nation building
incentives, the young entrepreneurs program, educational program, which a lot of local MPs don't so-called publicize it or implement it for their constituents, simply because the federal government is not from the same party. So it is not their duty to do something good for the federal government, even though it's actually a good thing. So my duty as an MP is just to make them look bad, which is wrong, because taxpayers pay me money, all right, as an MP, I'm sure. And some of them may not even support me. So it's not my duty to play the politics where winners take all and losers try to win by making the winners look bad. This is something that we have to change. That's
excellent. So question number 5 has got to do with state. It's not so much federal, but it's got to do with land. So will you defend and push for measures to ensure the protection of existing forest reserves in your state? In your case, it is the FT, and to and to encourage the same in other states so that forests remain intact as a whole functioning ecosystem, to ensure continual protection of Malaysia's rich biodiversity, water catchment areas, and our rights to a green environment. So we are becoming more and more fragmented. You are hop, skip, and a jump away from Taman Rimba, Bukit Kiara, and that section of area. Because it is land is a state matter, forest is a state matter, water is a state matter, the federal government has challenges and limitations. Although in this past year, the Ministry of Water and Environment has pushed for a streamlining of how it is managed and regulated, but it still requires the states to play their part. So when you have that opportunity, will you push for keeping the ecosystems intact, you know, so the connectivity of green lungs and watersheds?
Mr. Kennedy, every year I will travel to Belum Rainforest a couple of times. Have you been there?
Not yet.
Oh,
not yet.
Oh, that's where you see what nature is all about. You know, nature is everything to me. It is very important. All right. And they support life. 3 things I always believe: advocate peace for mankind, respect for human life, and protect nature and the environment that we live in. Very, very important. Now, it pains me every time when I travel to certain places in this country, then I see a lot of trucks, lorries carrying logs. out. All right, it really pains me. And this is something that we have to do, all right, as member of parliament. Of course, these things could be or is actually a state matter. But if MPs in the House, the majority of them create consciousness, awareness, and the political will to solve this matter once and for all right, to prevent poachers, all right, pembalak haram, and those illegal loggers, all right, and ensure that the enforcement is strong, up to date. Up to date means they must have the necessary weapons, because now I hear a lot of poachers coming in from Vietnam, and they are very sophisticated. Some of our enforcement agents are being shot at, with weapons. So I think all these things we have to create awareness and the political will. So as far as these things, you look at recently we see a lot of tigers coming out from jungle, right? Some begging for food. So something is very wrong. So I think all these things we have to create, especially among the younger generation. All right, we must create this kind of feeling, this kind of seriousness among the young, because I think the future of Malaysia belongs to them. All right, and we have to protect what we have now before it's too late, and they must play an important part in this whole program of ours.
Okay, thank you for that. This brings us to question 6 and 7, after which we'd like you to take a few minutes to talk about the campaign. So question 6 is, will you push for changes in law or table in Parliament to bring back local council elections?
People asked me that day, I think my PJ, whether we should bring back local council elections. I believe so. But before I can even answer the question, why are people feeling that there should be local council elections? I've moved around over the years, as I said, I've seen Damansara has gone for the worst. That's because it is a bit political, but it's a fact. For the past 3 terms, we have voted in candidates for parliamentary, state, and together with their appointed local councillors, they are all from the same party. 3 consecutive terms with huge majority. And they become very, very complacent. All right. And they have taken people for granted. A lot of development projects are being carried out without proper process, without proper participation from the people. The people are getting very, very annoyed. That's why this so-called call for local council elections suddenly becomes a very, very important subject. All right, subject that the locals or the residents want to push for, because they think that there is a need for check and balance. All right, which is what I believe. That's why I said this coming Saturday, I'm contesting for the parliament seat of Damansara. If you put me in as a member of parliament from Barisan Nasional, I will check and balance the state and their local councillors. All right. Once I check and balance, I'm sure they will give all kinds of, they will come out with their best, because it's a wake-up call, you see. The alarm is ringing now, okay? And they can also check and balance me. But in the long term, I think we should actually bring back local council elections. All right. I will push so-called this movement towards that. At least 1/3, because under the Local Government Act, you can appoint 24. So 1/3 is 8. So at least you have 8 elected from the public. The other 16 can be appointed. All right, we start like that. Then half, and then probably 2/3 will be elected.
Okay, thank you for that answer. We come to our final question. This one addresses a lot of things that you have said, and interesting enough, something you mentioned about how governance works in Parliament, where MPs are more interested in scoring political points than supporting what is good and opposing what is bad. So good law, bad law, good policy, bad policy. So question number 7 says, do you place your voters, your constituents, and their needs, rights, and aspirations over that of your political party and your conscience and your morality? So this is a tricky question, because, as I've said many times, when MPs take their oath, there is nothing that mentions being loyal to your political party. It may be a given, but the oath is to the country and to the constituents. And it's exactly what we talked about just now. So maybe you care to elaborate.
Yeah, this is where I think not only in Malaysia, even in US, UK, all right, books. I read a book by JFK called Profiles in Courage. It's about how they have to move away from party line in the interest of the people they represent. And that's where, the concept of courage comes in, grace under pressure. You're under pressure, but you have to be graceful to tackle that matter. But anyway, I think so, because as much as we have to follow party lines, don't forget at the same time, it is the people who elected us, all right? But when it comes to a time where you have to take a decision, we have to take it not as a sign of protest, but a sign to convince the party that, look, this is what people from my area needs, all right? So, and you've got to be hardworking, you've got to be persistent, all right? It's not a one-day thing, yes or no. It is about persuasion. It's not a protest. So with that, I think the party can understand our stand, all right? All this requires leadership, communication, which is key, and most importantly, understanding. If we can promote that, I think we can make sure that what we want that is good for the constituents and their needs and rights and aspirations will be taken care of.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time to answer all these questions. We would like to extend 3 minutes to you to talk about your campaign and to reach out to the constituents of P106. After this, we will be editing the video for all the useless bits, which is mostly me, and then putting it out on our social media platforms, so that people can watch and see what your stand is on the issues that we've raised. So please proceed.
Say again, sorry, the question is?
Oh, no question. Now you get to campaign. We've got 3 minutes.
Oh, campaign. All right.
Yes.
As I said, as a Damansara PJ born resident, I am contesting now because for the past 12 years, I've seen Damansara gone for the worst. All right. Simply because those we elected for the past 3 terms, we gave them majority, and I don't think they're doing their job. This is not what I say only, also from the ground. And the time has come where we need some check and balance. All right. Otherwise, things that we don't want to see in front of a house happen, and that's one thing which I don't really favor is when the elected representatives will try to avoid responsibility and duty by saying, well, I'm a member of parliament, I only will say certain things. All right, and then the state elected representative will say the same thing also. Look, I'm not state, I'm only state, sorry, I'm not parliament. And then everyone will try to escape responsibility by saying that, look, this is not their duty. But at the end of the day, like what you said just now, a simple matter, even a cup or glass of water, it has the federal government, state government, and local government in it. All right, so the duty of the member of parliament encompasses all. All right, so that's why for me, to do your job is very, very important, and that can only be done under the so-called the surrounding so-called background in Petaling Jaya and Damansara today is to introduce healthy political competition, number one. All right, which is why for PJ Dealing, I'm trying to get this so-called MP-sponsored public referendum so that we start the ball rolling. So for future so-called sensitive projects, the same thing will be applied. And after 2 or 3, we will perfect it. And I want to use this model to actually champion for issues like climate change, all right, to be introduced and to be so-called like a template for the whole of Malaysia to follow. That is, people's participation is very, very important. And for people to participate, you must give them information. You must give them the room to criticize, correct? You must constructively. You must show sincerity, all right, towards the whole subject matter and come to a decision that is a win-win for all. And I think that is very possible. And I'm going to start that, all right, if I'm elected this 19th of November for the Parliament Damansara. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Should I say GT?
GT will do.
Okay, thank you very much, GT. And we wish you all the best in your campaign.
Thank you.
We're now two days out. Today is the 16th. So D-Day is in 3 days' time. We'll be wrapping up this campaign tomorrow and posting a summary of all the interviews that we've conducted. And hopefully We'll also share that with you so that you can share that on your profiles so that people who come visit your page can see what your take is on these matters. And all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And I would like to engage Gabungan Darurat Iklim further and Gabungan Bertindak Malaysia, because where I Damansara, all these societies like yours are very, very important to us, because you are the voice, all right, that will really make Malaysia better.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
As a Damansara resident, I thank you for your good work.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon. Don't forget to look after yourself. 3 days out. All the best.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. All the best to you too.